So let's talk about ratings a little bit more. Okay, so what Nielsen generally cites is ratings, points, and share. This is their TV assumption. It just shows you, how they think for radio. So they've got in the U.S., for instance, they've got a total households with TVs of 119.6 million. And then they've got an estimate of people 2 and older in the U.S. So it looks like targeting gets pretty young, 304.5 million. Single ratings point represents 1% of the total number. Okay. Okay, and then they re-estimate every year. Now here are some radio ratings that I pulled, just sort of poking around on the internet. This is New York market. So you'll see that the total population, because it's the tri-state area, is 16,285,500. It's got a estimate of Black, estimate of Hispanic, and those are right up there on top, and this was updated very recently. Now, these are all stations that subscribe to the Nielsen rating, so they're paying Nielsen to be able to provide these numbers to their advertisers. And from the left to the right, you see the call letters, and a lot of them are FM, most of them are FM, except for WINS. WINS is AM. There's the format. There's the owner. Of course, iHeartMedia and Entercom own so much. And then you see the ratings. Now, the ratings are the percent of the market that has listened to the station that month. And so if we go across the top here, WLTW-FM seems to be leading the market. 7.1 rating, 9.6, 13.3, and then 8.0. Okay, now here are, going down the list, this just shows some of the smaller stations. Now, a few more things. These are persons 6+ years old, and they have quarter-hour ratings. They do it every quarter hour. This way you can kind of estimate who's listening to your ad a little bit. Whoops, somebody wants to talk to me. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so what are we saying here? Okay. Now let me see if I can get us to the next page. Come on, darn it. Okay, now, so those are ratings, and let's talk now about actual impressions. So this is something else I pulled about broadcast impressions, which are reported every quarter hour. So this is a little example. The station has an audience of 2,000 in one quarter hour and 2,500 in the next. The same ad is broadcast once in each quarter hour. That'll be 4,500 impressions. Okay? So remember, an impression is one person hearing an ad one time. So, okay, hopefully that all makes sense to you. And that's how you get your cost per thousand. Now, let's take a look at what we saw before with that top station in New York. Said it had an 8% rating in January 2020. It said the New York market has a total 6+ population of 16,285,500. And 8% of that number gives you an average audience of 1,302,840 people. Okay. So impressions would be how many times your ad actually aired on that station in January times the average audience size each time it airs, and that'll give you the total number of impressions you got on WLTW in January. So if your ad aired 10 times during the month, you got 13,284,000 impressions. Okay, now let's also just remember here, part of what I want us to do as we go through each one of these media types is question the numbers, not just accept them, ad hoc, or not just take them as they are. So impressions, no matter what the medium, are people who might have had the opportunity to be exposed. It's an opportunity to see, or in the case of radio, an opportunity to hear. So with outdoor advertising, in the old days, it was how many cars go by a specific billboard times whatever, 2.3 average people per car, every month equals, so number of cars per month times people per car equals number of impressions, whether the person actually notices your ad or not, frankly. Magazines, impressions, you may remember, I think we talked about it. It was, it's circulation and newsstand sales of the magazine times the pass-along readers of 2.65 people per issue. So millions of people could be supposedly counted as a magazine impression, but if your ad is in a bad position in the magazine, your actual people seeing the ad could be a lot less than that. So these are opportunities to see. And so, again, it's the case with radio. And what are some of the weaknesses with radio listening? Well, first of all, this New York station supposedly had a rating of 8, but based now with 1.3 million, that's a pretty big sample size. So I would imagine but hold on, that estimate is they don't have people meters on 1.3 million people in the New York market, right, folks? Giving away $45 per month to 1.3 million people or anything like that. They've got a much smaller sample size, and they have sample sizes. They have to have a decent sample size in the key demographics. They have to have a good African-American sample size in New York. They have to have Hispanic, etc. So depending on the number of the sample size, you're not accurately saying 8% is the number. There's a range. It could be plus or minus 2% or plus or minus whatever it is. Okay, so the 8% is not a definite number. It's a range because it's based on statistical sampling. Number 2, people listen to the radio now, not just on radios with radio stations. They do things from their mobile phones, listening to podcasts or whatever, and I'm not quite sure where Nielsen's going with that. But here's another one, which is that people often may have the radio on while they're doing something else or looking at the website or who knows what. So in other words, or vacuuming or ironing or whatever. So one of the, I think, drawbacks with radio is it's often a background noise. So when I have WNYC, which is the public radio station here in New York, I have it on all day because, as I said, my dog likes it. She's over there eating my pillow right now. Eloise, stop that. But Eloise may be listening, but I may not be listening, okay, to the radio every moment. So these are things that give some gray area or some shading or some questioning to the absolute validity of these impression numbers and these CPM numbers. Okay. Want to talk about creative formats now? What most people do is record an ad. Very cheap to do a radio ad. You basically can go into a sound studio, recording studio, and there are booths with microphones that you step into that are soundproof if you're going to be talking during it. And so one person sitting there at the console handles the recording and tells you to do it again or gives you some direction. Maybe there's somebody from your agency giving you some suggestions. You got the script, you're reading the script, they're timing it, you're having to get the timing right and get the readings right. They can actually edit together. If you did the first half of the commercial better the second time and the second half of the commercial better the first time, they can edit those together so you wouldn't even know it. They can edit on music and sound effects very easily. So it's just, a few hours, half a day in a recording studio, and it's not a lot of expense, but that's what a lot of people do. And then they send it digitally to the station. The ad is tagged and everything, so it can be tracked out there, and it's trafficked. That's what they call sending the ad, and then the stations play it. Another possibility with radio is to do a live DJ read, and this is important. This is really very important because TV shows used to have the host doing commercials. I remember watching The Tonight Show when Johnny Carson was on in the 60s. I'd stay up late and watch all that naughty adult television with, the racy talk with the actresses and everything, and the funny jokes, and of course it was just, you felt like you were, and everybody talk about what Johnny said the night before, because he really was amazing. Johnny Carson hosted The Tonight Show for many years. He used to do commercials. He would actually say, now we have to do a commercial, and he'd be sitting at his desk with his microphone. He'd hold up a can of Alpo or something and say, this is what Rover likes, and dish it out into a bowl and maybe put it down, and the dog would eat it. And then when he stopped doing it, his sidekick Ed McMahon would do the live read commercials, and TV really stopped doing that. I don't think there are too many live shows or whatever where you're going to get that kind of cooperation. Hang on, Ellie, stop that! Cooperation from the host. They're just too cool. But radio's not too cool in the sense that the DJs, the hosts, are usually very open to, if you send them a script or some suggestions, they will talk their way through a commercial. And of course, the best kind is not just for them to do a kind of a stilted reading of a script, but to have some fun and incorporate it into their show. And that's really priceless, because then if people are into the DJ, it's like an endorsement. And from what I understand, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but my students who come in and talk about podcasts in this class have said that frequently hosts of podcasts will do that. We'll talk about the product that's, advertising on the show. And it's a real advantage. And it's something radio offers that you can't get anywhere else. Sponsorship, of course, something else that can be done with radio. And let me just see here. Oh, hold on. Whoa. I want to stop this. Stop in the name of love. And we're going to stop. And I want to play a really quick, but nevertheless very important little piece about radio creative.